but I'd just like to do a quick intro for you this morning. Again, thank you for attending. We have with us today Teaching Strategies, and they're going to talk to us today about the road to your Child Development Associate credentials. So at this time, I would like to introduce to you Jillian Gansler and Mia Sherrod. Sherrod. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. But again, thank you for being with us. We'd like to again thank Teaching Strategies for being a continued sponsor of the Smart Start Conference. We'd like to thank them for their continued support of children and families in North Carolina. And thank you for being with us. Thank you to everyone for attending the Smart Start Conference. At this time, I will turn it over to Teaching Strategies. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne, and thank you to Smart Start for hosting this webinar and for hosting what I heard was a fabulous conference, and for all the great work that you do every day. I'm going to start with just as we've talked about, there are a few logistics. I'm Jillian Gansler. I'm the Director of Business Development for Teaching Strategies. I'm going to be your main presenter, and I am really excited to be joined by my colleague, Mia. Mia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mia Sherrod, and I'm a Partner Success Specialist with Teaching Strategies. So happy to be here.
And Mia works a lot in North Carolina, as well as lots of other things.
Absolutely.
So our logistics are, it's a presentation. We have allowed a lot of time at the end for questions. If you have them, that's really what Teaching Strategies is here to do, is to help support you with this process. This is being recorded, as you probably saw on your screen. So if you want to go back, the recording will be sent out and will be made available to everyone from the conference. In addition, I will be sending out these slides to Smart Start so they can send them out to everyone. And there is a Q&A and a chat, and Mia will be monitoring those and answering your questions in real time. And if enough people are asking the same thing, we're probably going to stop and pause and go ahead and answer them in the moment. We really encourage your participation because the Child Development Associate credential can be complicated, and we're really trying to unpack it and make it easy for you. I want to start by asking, who are you? And if everybody can put in the chat who you are, what state you're from, and also if you have a burning question, or where are you on your CDA journey? Burning questions is fine, or where are you on your journey, or both. So I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to do that and put that in the chat. Please. I know we had a couple people just sign on. I'm asking everyone to put in the chat what state they're from, if they have a burning question about this, and where are they on their CDA journey. And if you haven't started or don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay too. It's what we're all learning together.
Jillian, we're getting reports that the chat's disabled, so I'm seeing folks added in via the Q&A. We're going to get the chat enabled, so you're going to be able to do that, but we do see them coming in. We see North Carolina listed, so we'll get it started in just a moment. I'm going to check that setting.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica. So it does look like, so far at least, most of the people that are logging in are saying they're from North Carolina, which is great. North Carolina is one of the states that have a big CDA initiative. So we are pleased to have you here today. So please feel free to communicate with us through the chat and the Q&A as we are going along, because we're a relatively small group. And so I really want to make sure that we answer everyone's questions. So let's start at the top. What is a CDA? Everybody throws those initials around. A CDA is a Child Development Associate credential. It's the most widely recognized credential in early childhood education. It's actually an international credential. It is used in all states across the country, recognized in all states across the country, and we are actually working with some initiatives across the pond, as they like to say, across in Europe and in the Middle East for other countries that have CDA initiatives going on. A CDA is really often referred to as the best first step on your early education career advancement. It sometimes leads to a college degree. It often leads to a college degree, but it's the best first step. It requires 120 hours of approved early childhood education training. We're going to get into that in a little bit. And this other point is really important. It is only issued by the CDA Council for Professional Recognition. If anyone else tells you they can give you a CDA, they are not being 100% truthful. It is really only provided by the CDA Council. That being said, there are a lot of entities that provide some of the steps along the way, but the actual CDA credential is only provided by the council. And the CDA credential is renewed every 3 years. It's a basic credential. It's a really highly prestigious credential. You all are really lucky in North Carolina, and there are some other states, we'll get into that in a little bit, that are providing funding to help you earn your CDA. And you're really lucky about that. And I would encourage you to take advantage of that and to use that funding while it is available, because as we all know with funding, it sometimes is here and sometimes is not. So who needs a CDA? A Head Start. I actually, as I was saying before we started recording, I actually just came from the National Head Start Conference last night. Head Start is a major proponent of CDA. Head Start requires teaching assistants or aides to hold a CDA if they don't have a degree, to be in a classroom. Early Head Start has to have a minimum of a CDA. So Head Start are really required to have CDAs. Family child care, many states require family child care to have a CDA in order to have the qualification. And then states and cities and districts, many states and cities and districts require a CDA. North Carolina requires a CDA now for NC pre-K teachers. So that is one of the reasons that we and the state are working together, collaborating on making sure that we are supporting fully the NC pre-K teachers who need a CDA. So what are the steps? The steps to the CDA, there are a lot of steps. Everybody, I have to tell you, I'm one of the folks that answers the help desk line sometimes at Teaching Strategies. And folks call in, okay, so I'm done with my training, get me my CDA. That's not the whole process. It's a multi-stepped process. The steps are up on the screen. What really is one of the most time-consuming processes, especially if you all are working full-time and have families and all of that, is the 120 hours of education. You have to have 120 hours of early childhood education across 8 CDA subject areas. So 120 hours, as you know, that's a lot of training. So it takes most people an average of 6 months to complete that training through our process, through online. And it can take longer, it can take less. It really depends on the person if you're taking it online. When I first got into this field many, many years ago, a couple of decades ago, actually, at this point, you needed to take about 3 years to get those 120 hours because there was no online. And so folks would have to spend basically every Saturday going to a training for 3 years. And that's how they'd get their 120 hours. So everyone's really lucky. Online does exist. Many, many people get the training online. It is probably the most cost efficient and probably time efficient way at this point, because I know that everyone getting a CDA has lives and families of their own and jobs. And so the 120 hours is the biggest step in terms of time consuming. That being said, there are other steps along the way. You need to have 480 hours of experience in the classroom. If you are a full-time NC pre-K teacher, that's not a problem. You're getting that as you go along. If you are a full-time Head Start teacher, that's not a problem. A lot of folks want to get their CDA and they aren't working full-time in the classroom, so they can get it using volunteer hours. The CDA Council will recognize those 480 as volunteer hours as long as you have some kind of documentation. One of the other big pushes these days for CDA is with high school students, and that's because our workforce, as everyone knows, is short of people. Our workforce in the country in general is short of people. Early childhood workforce is really struggling right now with getting enough folks to be in the classroom. And so there are statistics that the CDA Council will say that there are a lot of students graduating from high school, don't necessarily want to go to college right away. And for many years, many decades, there are other fields that have had career technical education programs in high school. Plumbers, electricians, cosmetology, they've always had it. Early childhood is a little late to that party, but it is now picking up. And so there are a lot of states and school districts and even private entities that are running early childhood education programs for high school students to earn their CDA in their junior and senior year while they are still in high school. So they're getting their 480 hours through internships over the summer, after school. So that's another big step, is to get work experience. Then the other steps are you have to do a professional portfolio. You have to do family questionnaires that go in your portfolio. You have to actually apply with the CDA Council, and you have to take a test and have your classroom practices verified. And that means someone comes out to your classroom, or they do some online if you're in a rural area. And the CDA Council will have a professional development specialist do a verification of your teaching practices. Usually takes about a half a day, and review with you your portfolio. All of those steps, though, really happen after you do the training and get your work experience. So that's a little bit about the multiple steps. We at Teaching Strategies, we've taken those steps and made it into a short little graphic so that you can see very clearly where we as a training provider step in and help you, and we as a training provider that's working with the state of North Carolina help you. We are helping you get the 120 hours through a program called Quorum. It's an online training program, and we're helping you do your portfolio and prepare for the other steps through Quorum also. And then after that, as I said before, no matter where you do those first couple of steps, you have to go to the CDA Council, because they really are the only folks that will issue this credential. So CDA starts, the solution to earning your CDA, as I've said a couple times already, I'm going to keep saying it, starts with the professional development. The 120 hours is really where folks who don't make it through the process, that's where they get tripped up. That's where they get stuck in that training. They start, life takes over, they don't finish. You really need to start and get going on the training. So we include, for Teaching Strategies, our solution provides all the CDA required coursework, but you need to take the whole 120 hours in English or Spanish. You can take it in whatever language you speak as your primary language of those two, but you need to take all of the 120 hours. And that includes training across 8 subject areas. I'm going to talk a little bit about what those are. All of the training, if you're going someplace else, make sure you're getting continuing education units. And if you're using our solution, you can get those continuing education units, and while you're earning your CDA, that can apply for some of your other training requirements. We are an official partner with the CDA Council. That green logo that you see up there, make sure you look for those 2 logos that are on the screen. Make sure you look for those on any training you are taking towards your CDA. Now, if you're going through Teaching Strategies, we can guarantee, and the state of North Carolina, we can guarantee you that we have them. If you are in another state on this call and you're going through another provider, make sure you go for those logos, or I would hate to have someone take training thinking that it's earning towards their CDA and it's not counting. Trust me, I've taken those calls too. Those are not fun calls. So when you are using the Teaching Strategy solution, which I'm focusing on this because it is available to you for free in North Carolina, and most of you are from North Carolina. Excuse me. You go in and log into your membership account, and what I've circled on the screen, that's where you're going to find all of the CDA training. There is actually, behind that circle, there is actually 200 hours of training in English, over 200 hours, and over 130 hours in Spanish. So you can go in there and choose and get started and take the coursework that you need to earn your CDA. It's all in 8 subject areas. So you can, once you click that button, you will come to something that gives you the 8 subject areas. So these 8 subject areas are designated by the CDA Council. They are aligned with their competencies. So for instance, subject area 1 is all about health and safety. You all need to take health and safety every year for federal and state requirements, licensing. So subject area 1 is all about health and safety. Now, the courses you're taking for the state are not going to count for that. So you need to take them in here. But you don't have to take those same courses. You can choose different ones. We have, for instance, in subject area 1, that we have about 30 hours to choose from. You have to take 10. So you have lots of opportunities to choose. So the other subject areas are things like child development. We have courses on developmental milestones. We have courses about working with children with special needs. There are other subject areas about working with families. There are other subject areas about running a high quality program. There are courses on administration. Even if you're not a program administrator, that top content is very relevant to you. And the CDA Council has determined it's relevant to you, which is why they're asking you to take it. So basically, you have to take a total of 120 hours of CDA approved training, which is what we have in Quorum. And you have to have a minimum of 10 hours in each of these 8 subject areas. So what I always advise folks to do, and we have worked at Teaching Strategies with thousands, literally thousands of educators like yourselves who have taken the coursework and earned their CDA. So it is very doable. And what I always advise folks to do is to go through these 8 subject areas, take your 10 required hours, choose your courses, take your 10 required hours, and then decide which of the subject areas you really want to take more of, and then go back and take additional courses. Because if you're doing the math, 10 minimum hours in each of the 8 subject areas, that's 80 hours. You have a total of 120. So the other 40 are what I would call electives or free choice. So you go through and take your 10 hours in each subject area, and then you go through and take your other 40. What I also advise folks to do as they're getting started is in our program, we have, as I said, over 200 hours of courses in English that you're choosing your 120 hours from. If there is a topic that you have always wanted to know about or something is very relevant to you, and that is going to be totally different, me and I are going to choose different topics. Jessica's going to choose a different topic. Yvonne's going to choose another one. Everyone on this call is going to choose a different topic because what is meaningful to you may or may not be meaningful to other folks. I would put it in the search bar, put a search word there and see if we have a course on it, because I can say that 90% of the time we do, and take that course first, because they're all going to count towards one of the subject areas. That course will get you started. You'll get to learn about the CDA. You'll get to learn about the process of taking courses online. You'll learn how to find us if you need us, if you forget your password or any kinds of problems like that. So that's what I always advise folks to do. Go to the topic that you're passionate about, that you've always wanted to know about, and put it in the search bar and go ahead and take that course first. So one of the things that we know at Teaching Strategies is we as adults, and this applies to children also, every one of us learns differently. So we have lots of resources, and the CDA Council courses will list lots of resources of how you get those 120 hours. I know I'm talking a lot about the 120 hours, but that is because that is generally the most time consuming, and where folks, if they get tripped up in the process, that's where they get tripped up. So under the Teaching Strategies portal, there's a CDA resources page. We have the lists on paper. You can print them out and put them next to your computer. Other folks who also have those. So we will list all of our courses, and so you can use it as a check mark. Some of you, though, like to track things digitally. We've all become attached to our phones and our computers. So there's also a course tracker that you can track it digitally. And so you can put in there, I completed this course, you check it off. It's again a checkbox. You completed the course, and then you submit it and it tallies it up. So this tracker keeps track of where you're going on your 120 hours and making sure that you have met all the requirements in each of the 8 subject areas. So for instance, in subject area number 2, I have met my minimum 10 hours of training. So that's why it's green. So I need to, if I want to meet my minimum hours in the other subject areas, I need to go in and start taking those. And the tracker is also telling me I've taken a total of 98 hours. I'm sorry, a total of 22, and I have 98 to go towards my 120. So you're tracking 2 things. You have to track that you hit the big magic number of 120 hours of training, and you have to track that you've got a minimum of 10 hours in each of the 8 subject areas. So I know I've said all of that a couple of times, but I hope that's making sense, because that's what is most important. 120 total, 10 hours minimum in each of the 8 subject areas. for the training to earn your CDA. So the CDA, though, as I showed you on one of those earlier slides, is not just about the training. As much as I'm talking about the training, the CDA is, there are multiple steps. The CDA is also about doing a portfolio, taking an exam, and having your classroom practices verified. So in the teaching strategies solution, we have a course called CDA Planner. And if you're going someplace else, if you're not in North Carolina and you're taking your training elsewhere, make sure that you're getting some kind of support for the other steps, because they are also lengthy. So we have a CDA Planner course, and it's available in English and Spanish. So I always advise, you know how I said before, take your course first that you're passionate about, take this one second. And the reason I say that is because I don't really necessarily want you to take this course first, because it's a 5-hour course. There's a lot of assignments in it. It's more lengthy. Some of our courses are 2 hours or 3 hours, and they're on topics that hopefully you're passionate about or that are relevant to your classroom teaching. This one is all about the CDA. It's all about the nuts and bolts of what is a CDA, how do I get a CDA, what are the steps, explaining all the competency standards, it explains how to prepare yourself. The reason I tell people to take this one second is because if you do your portfolio while you are taking your training, or start on your portfolio, the portfolio will not become this massive thing that you have to do when you're done with the training. There are a lot of things that go into your portfolio that you can and should be doing while you are doing your 120 hours of training. For instance, you have to write a philosophy of teaching. What's your philosophy of teaching? You have to write some action plans, what I would call action plans at the end of courses. How am I going to keep my children safe? How am I going to monitor for developmental milestones? All of those things. You're doing those while you're taking your courses. And so you can be printing out those assignments that you're doing in your coursework and putting them in the portfolio. In this CDA Planner course, there's actually a place in the course where we ask folks to walk away from your computer and go get yourself some blank file folders or a binder and start labeling your sections of your portfolio and collecting all the paperwork, because some of the things in the portfolio are paperwork, they can be time consuming. And so this is how we're giving you all the tools, we're giving you the skeleton of the portfolio. So that's why I always say take it towards the beginning, because then you can be building it while you're going along doing your training. So that's why I like to put in a plug for it. Start your portfolio early, because the portfolio is also something that is time consuming. And so any work that you're doing, hopefully you can be repurposing it for the portfolio. So in the teaching strategies solution, there's also a CDA learning path. And this is where we lay out the steps to the CDA. What I've said at the beginning, there's a CDA journey. There's the course tracker, your application, the exam, the portfolio, and the verification visit. Behind each one of these tiles, we have additional resources. I know other folks on their solutions, they may or may not have something like this, but this is something where you can go through the CDA learning path and start on your journey. Because as I said, this whole webinar is about the road to your CDA. It's a road, it's a journey, it's a path. And we want you to go get on the path and go through the path and be successful on the path. You will learn a lot. It is a great credential to have, and it is also required now. So also this CDA learning path, as you see at the top of that screen, it can track as you go along. How are you doing? How far along are you towards the entire process, not just your 120 hours? The tracker is going to count towards how you're doing towards your 120 hours. So these are just some examples of the things that are behind each of those tiles. There are videos, there are frequently asked questions, there are buttons to click support. If I have a, on the bottom left where there's, or it's on my bottom left, where there's a lot of purple boxes. If you click each one of those, it's going to take you to a page about, this is a question you need to ask the state. This is where you need to go to the council. This is where you need to go back to teaching strategies with a question. So all of those things are going to tell you, give you more information and get you support. And there's also some tips about the exam, discussions with other educators earning their CDA. So what does all this cost? If you're in North Carolina, as I said, you're really fortunate. It's not costing you anything. But what the costs are, I also want to put in a plug for how supportive the state has been and all the costs that they are covering. So the two main costs of the CDA is training. the training can range from $285 a person up to $2,000. That's what I've kind of seen on the marketplace. That's a huge, huge range. So really what you need to do is make sure that you're getting the value. And as I said, in North Carolina, they're paying for it. The council application fee is $425. There are scholarships available. In North Carolina, Teach is paying that scholarship fee. I encourage you to go to Teach. Don't wait until you're done. If you are in North Carolina and you are well on your way to earning your CDA, maybe you're halfway through the coursework, maybe you're a quarter of the way, start on the coursework, reach an appropriate benchmark, and then go to Teach, and they will pay those fees. They do have a separate application. You do need to complete it. And they will pay those fees though for you to earn your CDA. So if you're in North Carolina, you're extremely fortunate. It is costing you nothing because between the state and Teach, they are paying for it. So I've got up here on the screen, in case some of you are from other states, there are other states that are paying for the CDA training. North Carolina for pre-K, Alabama first class pre-K. Alabama is also paying for childcare. DC is paying for everyone, New Mexico and Utah. So we can direct you to how to get that CDA training for free if you want to. CDA fees, there are also scholarships available in most states, and that link that I put up there is how you can find your state and find a scholarship for yourself. But North Carolina, go to Teach. Teach is doing a fabulous job, and they are partnering with us, and we are getting folks through the initial stages on the training and then getting them over to Teach. So what's my biggest advice? Start soon. As you saw, it's a multi-step process. Do not wait. You cannot do 120 hours if you're working full-time and have a family or friends or trying to have a life. Start soon. 120 hours is a lot of training. But if you start soon, you can complete it. Most people, as I said, it takes about 6 months. They'll take a course a week maybe, and it's all online, so you can take it in bits and pieces. You can maybe decide I'm going to do one Saturday a month and take a couple of courses, but start soon. Don't procrastinate. In our CDA planner course, we have actually a very funny video from Ellen DeGeneres about procrastination. But don't procrastinate. Start soon. Also, set yourself a schedule and stay on the schedule. Got the calendar up on the screen. Set yourself a schedule. What's your goal? When do you want to apply to Teach for your scholarship? When do you want to do your portfolio? When is your goal for earning your CDA? And I urge you to seek out support if you need it. The CDA Council has a lot of support. I'm going to give you our email address at the end. Seek out support. Don't flounder. Don't just say, oh, I took this course, I didn't pass it, I'm moving on. Because the credential is required in NC Pre-K. And so don't flounder. Seek out support if you need it. Please, I encourage you. We have Teaching Strategies. We have a team of folks ready to help you. Me and I are on that team. We are ready to help you at any time with the CDA or finding how to get to Teach. Teach has a team that's ready to help you. So please, please reach out and get support if you need it. So that's where I encourage you, if you need support with your CDA, go to help@quorumlearning.com. As I said, we have a team of folks, I'm on the team, that can help you with that. We also, if you are in North Carolina, there is, through your membership, there is the hub, and the hub has support there from people like myself, but also from your colleagues, where you can talk to other teachers and talk to a CDA expert. So I've kind of wanted to pause and leave. I'm trying to leave plenty of time for questions and anything else that you need from us. I've just talked a lot, and I really want to answer your questions and help you out. So if you want to, Jessica or Yvonne, can you give permission to people to unmute themselves if they want to unmute themselves? Because I'm fine with people asking questions or putting it in the chat or the Q&A, because Mia's monitoring those two.
Yes, so you can add in your questions in the Q&A, the chat, or verbally, so we can unmute you if you'd like to speak. Just let us know if you have a question.
And Jillian, there were a couple of things that came in through the chat.
Okay.
That one was that Christy Snug is on.
Okay.
And she's
Hi, Christy.
put in some information. She just wanted to clarify for folks that the CDA is required for teacher assistants in North Carolina. So just to make that point of clarification, she wanted
Okay.
to mention that. And then Christy, there were a couple of links that you put into the chat. If you want to come off mute and to speak to those, that would be lovely.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hello, Christy.
Hi, Jillian. Thank you so much for covering all this for folks. I
Yeah.
just wanted to remind folks that the easiest way is for them to, we are so ready to take these teach applications. We've got a few people that have reached out to us, but we have counselors standing by and ready. I put a link in the chat that will take you directly to our teach page on our website, and that'll lead you straight through to who to contact or how to apply. We do not have an online application right at the current time, but it tells you exactly how to go through it and to apply. And I just wanted to remind folks, not only do we pay for that, the fee for the application fee, but we're also covering the cost of the book.
Yes.
Just wanted to remind folks. Thank you,
Yes.
Jillian.
Yes. Thank you. And yes, as I said, I can't say it enough. You are very fortunate in North Carolina to have the state paying for the training as well as teach helping with those fees, because $425 as well as the book, which can be another $125 on top of that. It's a lot for a teacher. So I'm incredibly supportive state in North Carolina.
Yeah, and I just want to advise people to do it now because the covering of the training may not last forever. The teach scholarships are going to still be available, but right now we're covering the training plus the application plus the book, and it would be the best time for people to jump on, just like you said, Jillian. So thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
We just had another question that came through the chat that either Jillian or maybe Kristen you might want to cover, and that is, does an administrator need a CDA?
It is just right now, as I understand it, for NC pre-K assistant teachers mandated.
Right.
Administrators, most have a college degree. If you have a college degree, you don't right now need the CDA. It's really for those that have a GED or a high school diploma.
That's
as I said,
true. Jillian,
yeah.
This is Christy. I was just going to add, we are working on alternative pathways for folks. So if they're just starting out in the field, you know, like you said, most of the time your administrators, they're going to need that administrative credential. And depending on where that is, you know, most of them have degrees, but if they're just starting out, the goal would be, this would be a good place to start, but it would not probably be the most recommended path, but it could be. And we are working with our community college partners to hopefully in the very near future have the CDA transfer over for some college credit, but we're still working on that at the present time.
Right.
So it's probably not the easiest pathway for administrators.
Yeah. And the CDA is really, as I said at the beginning, and as Christy just reinforced, the CDA is really the first step. It is really designed to be the first step on your early education career pathway in terms of a credential. So that's why many states, including North Carolina, are mandating it for certain professionals that may have come into the field either from another field or with a GED or a high school diploma. And so it's how to get them on the path for further career advancement. It's, I mean, from the folks I know, and I hope I haven't overwhelmed you with the process. It is a doable process. As I said, thousands and thousands of teachers have earned it with us, and even more thousands have earned it on their own. It's something that's been around since the 80s. It's a great credential to have. The information that you're going to get in those 120 hours is really, really relevant to what you are doing with young children. It's all about how to take care of young children, how to encourage their learning, the coursework can be things around literacy and math and science and all those concepts that young children, I know you're talking about pre-K students, so 4 and 5-year-olds, all the concepts that they need and setting them on the right pathway. And if you have that training, you're going to set them on the pathway even better than I know you're doing right now. So it's really an important credential to have, and it is something that the knowledge is something you're going to use forever in your career.
So we have another question that came in. It says, it's asking, teach scholarships, are they for NC pre-K assistants only or all pre-K TAs?
I can jump in on that.
Yeah, I was
Okay,
going to say,
yes.
I know the answer, but I'm going to let you do it, Christy.
We know the answer too, but we know you know it better.
Yeah, so teach scholarships are for anyone in the early childhood field in North Carolina. You do not have to be a teacher assistant. You could come in as a lead teacher, because the CDA is also an equivalent for the credential, the North Carolina Early Learning Credential. The CDA is an equivalent for that. And teach scholarships will work for anyone in North Carolina that's wanting to get an entry-level credential into the field. So we have teach scholarships for all.
Thank you, Christy. Anybody remember, you can unmute and ask a question if you want to.
Absolutely. And we don't have any other questions that have come in, but we'll give people time to type. So,
Or
take
unmute.
themselves off of mute, right? And I think this was just a restatement of the same question, but it's again asking, is teaching strategies, are the teach scholarships for teaching strategies only for, is the teach scholarship for teaching strategies only or for NC pre-K TAs? And I think, again, we've answered that one, and it's just available for those teach scholarships are available for those in the early childhood field. So there are opportunities for anyone to get teach scholarships and resources.
Really what Teaching Strategies is providing for anyone in NC pre-K, for those assistant teachers, and well, for anyone in NC pre-K that needs training, what Teaching Strategies is providing, what the state is providing to Teaching Strategies is the opportunity for you all to get training through our professional development teacher membership, which includes all the CDA training, as well as all kinds of other things. Includes all kinds of training and all kinds of coursework. And that's what the state is, that's what you're getting through Teaching Strategies. The Teach Scholarship are funding the scholarship pieces, and that is really available for anybody in the state. Separate from Teaching Strategies, we're just working closely with them.
Hey, Jillian, this is Christy again. As I read that question, it looks like they're asking, do they have to only do the Teaching Strategies way to get CDA, maybe? Okay, that's what they said, yes. Is the Teach Scholarship for Teaching Strategies only? And I would say reach out to us. Teach can cover training in multiple areas. Of course, our top priority is to work with Teaching Strategies because they've been such a great partner, but there are scholarships available for other pathways as well.
And also, thank you, Christy. And also, which this might be what the person's asking about. There are potentially folks on this call that maybe started CDA training years ago because it doesn't expire. So, and maybe they earned 10 hours or 20 hours out of the 120. They can get the rest of it from Teaching Strategies and then still go to teach and get their CDA, because the CDA Council will accept training from multiple sources. So just reach out to Teach about that, or reach out to us, and we're happy to help you unpack what do you need at this point in your career in terms of meeting the training requirements, because some folks may have earned a small amount of training from a conference or something. It's only going to be able to be applied if you have your certificates and it has the CEUs, logo on it, but if you have some training and you want to apply it, you can. But reach out to us because that's a more specific question that we're going to need to answer on a person by person case basis. Any other questions? Just wanted to leave plenty of time for this because I know that a lot of folks, as I do these webinars, come up against a lot of folks that have questions and need coaching, and that's what we're here for. Okay, well, if you think of any.
We have one more question that came in.
Okay, perfect.
And it says, what are the observations like?
Okay, that's a very good question. I actually attended a webinar recently on observations and watched a lot of videos on them. The observations, most people do them in person. And most of you in North Carolina probably will be in person because there are a number of professional development specialists in North Carolina. They'll either be in person or online. And I mean, they'll do virtual ones because during the pandemic, they started doing virtual ones. They initially were all in person. So there are a cohort of people out there, a couple of thousand of them, that have been trained by the CDA Council. They're called professional development specialists. They're all people that have a background in early childhood education. Many of them teach college. Many of them are, maybe they've worked for an R&R in the past, resource and referral agency. Maybe they're people that have worked for somebody like Christy in the past. So they're people that have worked in early childhood in the past, and they then go through an extensive training program by the CDA Council to become a professional development specialist, a PDS. And those are the folks who do the observations. So they will schedule with you their observation, and it's generally the last step in the process. Some people take their exam at the final step. Some people do their verification process at the final step. It's generally the last step, though. They will send somebody out to your program. They will be there usually for a minimum of half a day, minimum of 4 hours. They will observe you teaching with the children that you work with. So if you really want to make sure that on that day that you are with children who are familiar with you, they say, "Hi, Miss Mia," they're tugging at your leg. They're not like, "Who are you?" And they're afraid. You want to be in the room that you're with children you are typically with, so that they're comfortable with you, because that's what they're going to want to see is how are you establishing those relationships with the children? How are you working with the children? So it's generally they will observe for 2 hours, sometimes more, sometimes less, but generally they will observe for 2 hours. They will observe you teaching. Then they will sit with you for an hour and give you feedback. And they will then go through your portfolio with you. So that's the opportunity where you will have a live person reviewing your portfolio with you and giving you feedback on your portfolio. And then they will rate your portfolio, they will rate your teaching practices, and they will submit all those scores. It's and it's not long essay questions, although they'll give some feedback, but most of it is they'll rate you with numbers and letters. And they will send that into the council, and the CDA Council will use that as part of their evaluation of you. They will use your certificates on your teaching. They will use your actual portfolio. They will use this verification visits, person's feedback, and they will use your test on your exam. There is an exam at the end of the process. There are lots of practice questions in the books that Christy referenced. There are some books that you will get from the CDA Council along the way in the process. There are practice questions in there. So the exam, I encourage you not to be afraid of the exam. It's the exam as you go to a Pearson VUE site and take the exam. But that's basically what the visit is about. The visit is usually a half day. And if you live in an area, or if you happen to not have a PD specialist, that they also are very concerned about you not having a PD specialist that potentially you have a conflict of interest with. So, Christy can't be your PD specialist, even if she is one. So anybody who has a conflict, I can't. Anybody who has a conflict with you getting your CDA, it's a very designed to be a very authentic, very serious process. So they are looking for people that will rate you and that don't know you. But that's part of their evaluation, their council's evaluation of you.
another question came in, and it is there an additional cost for the visit, or is this part of the training cost?
No, the $425 that Teach is paying to the CDA council on your behalf in North Carolina, or that you're paying if you're in another state or someone else is paying in another state. That is to cover the cost of the person coming to your center. And that is to cover, and that covers the cost of the portfolio review as well as the exam. So that's why that's one big cost that you pay all at once. So there's not a separate cost. That's all included. Any other questions? Remember, you can unmute.
Nothing added so far.
Okay. Well, if there are no
Or-
other, yep.
Whoop,
Oh,
one more.
whoops, one more. I saw
Spoke
one
too
come.
quickly.
Go on, go
Can
ahead.
can someone take college courses as part of the 120 hours?
That's a question I would go to the CDA council with, because it's going to depend on the content of the college course and if you have the certificates and all of that. As I said, they will accept training from towards the 120 hours. They will accept it from multiple sources. They will accept it from conferences and everything. The cleanest and easiest way for you is going to be to use your teacher membership training that has been paid for by the state of North Carolina to get all 120 hours through our system online. But if you have taken other courses, or if you have taken college courses, I encourage you, in the college course case, I think you're going to need to go to the council, because that's going to be a question that they will need to approve. And I put on the previous slide their website, www.cdacouncil.org. They have a help desk also. They will answer by phone or email. So that's in the category of seek out support if you need it. But in general, the CDA is designed to be something that leads to you then taking college courses. But if you're ahead of the game and you're taking college courses, just reach out to us, make sure that you can use those towards your CDA, or potentially you may want to go a different path. As Christy said, there are many paths to improving your education in the state of North Carolina and others. Other questions?
Nothing else has been added to the chat, but we can give you another. Oh, wait, we got one that came in through
The Q&A?
Q&A. Yeah. Is it okay to take over 10 hours in a subject area? If so, you can have 120 hours, right?
Absolutely. You're going to need to take more than 10 hours in a subject area, because you have to take a total of 120. You have to have a minimum of a minimum of 10 hours in each of the 8 subject areas. I say that so many times that I get it twisted sometimes. You have to have a minimum of 10 hours in each of the 8 subject areas. So if you are doing the math, that's only adding up to your 80 hours. So absolutely, you will be taking more than 10 hours in at least one subject area, potentially more. So that's where, and we all learn differently. Some people like to go through and figure out in advance what they're going to do and pick all their courses and go down that path. I always advise folks to do the 10 hours in each of the 8 areas first, because that's going to give you a view of what all the content buckets are, what I would call buckets. And that'll give you the opportunity to decide which one really is what you're the most interested in. Which one do you want to take more courses in? But yes, you can, and you probably have to take more than 10 hours in one subject, at least one subject area, potentially more. Eight subject areas, at least 10 hours, total of 120. Those are the 3 key numbers to remember about the training. Other than that, the topics are kind of up to you within each subject area. What are you most interested in? Do you want to know about STEM topics? Do you want to know about working with families? Do you want to know about Keeping your classroom safe. We all want to keep our classrooms safe. Do you want to know about children with special needs? What's your interest? What's your passion? We have a course on creativity. We have lots of fun courses in the teaching strategies system. So lots of fun courses, lots of interesting courses. And if you don't see something there, send us a suggestion to the help at Quorum Learning, because we add new courses all the time, constantly developing new courses. And if you are an NC pre-K teacher, most of you will not be, you will be going for the preschool CDA. So you're going to be taking courses that are relevant to working with 4 and 5 or 3 to 5 year old children. Not necessarily the infant ones. So I think if there are no more questions, I am going to give you all a few minutes back in your day because I know you're busy. I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. And also on behalf of Teaching Strategies, thank you for the work that you do every single day. It is so important. It is critically important. And we so appreciate what you do with children and families. So thank you all for joining us today. I want to especially thank Christy for jumping in and helping with the teach questions. And I wish you all a safe day, and thank you again for everything you do. And Mia and I will stay on for a few minutes, the rest of the time. If you have other questions, feel free to ask. And also always feel free to help@quorumlearning.com.
And also I want to say thank you, Jillian and Mia, and also thank you, Christy, for joining us today. Thank you so much for this wonderful information. Thank you all for being a part of the Smart Start Conference. If you have any questions, please contact us at conference@smartstart.org if we can help in any way. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.